Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is Eddie Jennings from EJSLLC.com, and this is going to be another practice session for the RHCSA exam. And the topic I'm going to explore this video is under the Understand and Use Essential Tools objective, and that is create, delete, copy, and move files and um, directories. And so for this, I'm actually going to show you how I'm going to set up a little environment to be able to test this with. So I'm here on my CentOS 8 machine, go into terminal and sudo into root. And one thing, let me try that again. One thing I'm wanting to do, in addition to just literally like making and moving files, I want to deal a little bit with permissions because I'm thinking, the whole point of this exam is preparing you for real life, real world tasks. And I know in the Windows world, when we have to copy and move files and such, we need to keep in mind um, permissions and such. And I imagine that's going to be true in the Linux world as well. So I'm going to make a couple of users here. User add, call it test1. We'll do the same for test2. And give them a password. We'll do the same thing for test2. Oh, let me try that again. I am fat fingering that somehow, so one more time. Here's the lesson to be learned for RHCSA exam is to take your time and don't try to type too fast. Because had I done that right the first time, I would have saved like, what, 20 seconds or so. Anyway, so I have my two users that I've made. And what I want to do, I'm going to make a directory. Do it under root. I'm just call it test files. And so the first part of the objective of creating files, there's several ways of doing this. One way that is pretty common is to use the touch command. I'm actually going to change directories into test files. And if I were to do touch file 1 and do an ls, we have a file there. Touch actually can do more things than just create files. You can use it to modify some time attributes for files like modified time and such. You can go into the man pages for touch and check that out. But one of the most common things you'll use it for is just making files. Another way to make a file is using input-output redirection. If I were to echo, let's see, here is the second test file, and redirect that to file 2, then I'm going to have file 2 now, and I can cat file 2. There's the text that I redirected into file 2. Alright, I'm going to redirect some text into file 1 as well. I'll append that to file 1 since the file already exists. And there it is. Another way is to use your text editor, and for me I like using VI for that. Even if the file doesn't exist, if I were to just VI file 3, it's going to make a new file for me. So let me add some text here. There it is. I'm getting tired. This is text file 3. All right, that'll work. So I now have our 3 files, and if I were to cat file with a wildcard, gives us the output of all 3 of those files. Now, one thing to note, ls-l, we have root as the group and user owner of the file. So what I want to do is change that to test user 1. So we're going to show that test one file star. All right, so all these are owned by test user 1. And let's say that I wanted to copy these files into the home directory for test 1. All right, so that's one of the objectives here. We need to be able to copy files from one place to another. So if I were to, I use the cp command for that, and we're going to say test star because we want all of the test files to be copied, and we're going to feed it a directory. So home test 1. So oh, I know why. I named the test files file. As I said, I'm tired, so I guess that's another note for the RHCSA. Don't take the test when you're tired. So we'll do copy file star to home test 1. All right, so that worked. So the question is, or let me just do ls home test 1, and the files are there. So the question is, what are the permissions on the files? And if I am correct, in the Windows world, copying usually is going to inherit whatever the permissions are for the destination that you're copying to. I don't think that's necessarily true here. I remember doing some tests earlier and it seemed like it wasn't true, so let's find out. So ls-l home test 1, and lo and behold, the files are owned by root, who made the copy of the file, and root made that copy. So how would we preserve that? Well, we can use, there are a couple of flags with copy that we can use. One is the -a flag. So I'm going to go into the man page here, CP, and -a says archive is the same as dr and preserve all. So if I were to look up those couple of flags, the R flag, it's recursive. There's another thing. Oh, -- preserve. That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of -p. Preserve allows you to preserve different attributes. So what I think is happening in this, is conjecture, is the fact that, hey, this account is making a copy of the file, therefore that this copy is going to be created in like the context of that account, which is why the permissions and such appeared to change. I don't think the permissions actually changed. I think this new file was created, and and the permissions are set based off of the creator of the file, which in this case was the root account. But if we wanted to keep the same attributes, we can use -- preserve or -a, which is going to give us that as a part of the options. So let's remove these files. Test 1 file star. Oh, I understand why. Let's try that again. And rm, and let me look at alias rm. If you're wondering why it's asking this when you're as root, the rm is actually an alias rm-i. Anyway, so now home test 1 should be empty. So if we were to cp-a our file to home test 1, and then ls-l home test 1, we see that the file ownership and the permissions were preserved. It's test 1, test 1. So I would imagine on the exam, I'm sure there will be a task given to me where I have to copy files, and I'm willing to bet that on that task there's probably going to be some statement that talks about whether or not permissions need to be preserved. And the way that you would do that is using that -a flag for copy. One thing I believe, Let me look at man ls. I think it's dash I, maybe. Yeah, for inode. So if I were to ls dash do li here, see the inode number for these. I was talking just a minute ago about how when you make the copy, it I believe it's making a new file. So let's try ls-li for home test one. And yeah, all those have different inodes. So it's literally a new file that's being made, even though like the contents and such are being copied, permissions and such are not. So the question becomes, all right, so let's say we want to move a file. We don't want to have this other copy left behind. We literally want to move the file. How do we do that? We'll use the mv command for that. And let us delete the files that are in that directory. We'll file star, no, not ls. Well, I want to remove. Let's see if I can use dash F to not be prompted. Yeah, there we go. All right, so those files are now gone. Now, if I were to move the current files, so mv file star and give it the destination, let's see what happens. All right, so ls do dash li home test one. Notice here permissions have now the permissions were preserved, because literally if you look at these inodes here, it is the exact same file. So from what I understand from this, literally that's taking like all of the attributes and such of the file, and we're going to keep all those together and shove them to this new new location. So right now there's nothing in test files. Let's look at man for the mv command. I don't think there are any switches that deal with permissions. Yeah, there's not. So it's literally moving that file, which means all the attributes and such go with it. Take a look at the objective again, make sure I'm not missing anything here. So create, delete, copy, move files and directories. So we've dealt with files, we've made some files, we've used the rm command to delete files. Another way you can do it is using the find command. I'm not super familiar with find. I've used it for a couple of things, but there's all sorts of power that you can get out of the find command. And for example, let's find, we'll start in the home directory, and we want type dash F, which will be for files, and we want name file star. Oh, there we go. I had to do dash type for F, not just dash F. All right, and so that's given us files that that have the name file within its file name, and it will accept wildcards for that. Now, you can utilize this to execute some commands against it. And the way you would do that, so I have still my same find in home. Use the dash exec, and we will tell this a command to use. And in this case, I'm going to do the cat command. We use the close and open curly braces, or open and close curly braces. That is representing each of the I want to say object, but it's not an object because we're not in PowerShell. We're in Bash here. It's going to represent each of the item that's returned. I believe we have to do backslash semicolon to end the command. But what should happen here is that we'll get the output of each of those files. So let's see what happens. Yep, and there it is. So as far as this objective, if we wanted to delete these files, all we would have to do is change cat to rm, and now ls home test1, there's nothing in there. I know you have the locate command. I'm not sure. Let's take a look at locate real quick. I'm not sure if you can actually enter commands against it. But I do imagine, taking a look at the man page here, yeah, it doesn't look like you can. But I do imagine we could probably pipe that over to RM and see what happens. Which, for this practice session, why not? By the way, just kind of a general comment on practicing for this exam. Something that has helped me a good bit is doing little sessions like this where I kind of think to myself, all right, well, what if I could, can I do this with a different command, or can I do this in a different way? And I think that will help with like your just kind of general understanding. It's making you think about a problem in multiple ways, and for me, that helps me recall stuff. So let us go ahead and make some new files again. So I'm going to vi, we'll call it test file one, and I'll give it some text. Insert mode, there we go. I'll just use echo for the others. So this is the second file. Even if I did the append, it would still create a file. So I'll just do that as proof positive. Echo, this is the third file. And those are our little items there. So the question was, actually, what I'm going to do, this is kind of related to another video, but I'm going to put these into an archive. So I want to tar just make sure that's going to be right. RTF test file tar. Cool. Just because we're going to be deleting these, and I don't want to have to keep recreating them, so we'll just make our little tar archive of it. All right. So the question was locate, and I think it's update DB. Yeah. So we're going to locate test file. That should give us back our items. Actually, what I want to do, I'd like to rename each of these. I'm going to add dot text. And to rename a file, we use the move command. That's not officially part of the objective, but it's something that we're going to have to do. So test file one, I'm going to move that to dot text. And I'm going to make a new tar file with them in that. So tar. There we go. All right, so now if I were to locate test file star txt, I believe that is going to, nope. I need to update the thing with locate. Locate uses a database, so update DB will update the the database for locate. And if you're missing locate, you can install the mlocate package. So, and if you didn't know that you can install mlocate, you can do yum provides locate. It generally is going to tell you what package that you need to install, and that's mlocate. So anyway, so locate test file star.txt. All right, those are our things. So the question is, can we pipe that to RM? And I believe the answer is going to be yes. Or so I thought. But I'll bet you could do a subshell if we wanted to. So let's try that. So $, subshell, we're going to do locate test file .txt. Yep, and it's going to ask for each of those. So I couldn't use piping, which I'm not 100% sure why not on that. That'll be something I guess I need to explore. I'm thinking, like from the PowerShell world, that the whole point of moving that object across the pipeline. But doing a subshell will work for that. So I think we've covered enough on the create, delete, copy files. Need to do some stuff with directories as well. So I made a directory earlier, this test files directory using the mkdir command. There's a flag in it that you'll want to be aware of, and it is going to be the -p flag. And what that's going to do is create, if they don't already exist, parent directories in a directory path that you want to make. So let's say that we wanted to make this path here. So mkdir, we're going to put this test file 2 sub folder 1 sub folder 2. And this is going to error out because the test file 2 subfolder 1 does not exist. Therefore, it's not going to be possible to make the subfolder 2 directory. But if we were to do mkdir-p, that did not throw us an error. Let's see if we have the directory. So ls root, there is test file 2, and if I were to do ls-r test file 2, that shows us that we do have our subfolder. So mkdir-p is a great tool for this. So last part of the objective is copying and moving files and directories. So let's see, I'll bet I could use the find command to copy some files if I needed to for that. So let's see, we have let's extract our tar file so that way we get our test files back. So I'm going to do tar xvf test files.tar. We have our test files back. So even though the test files are right here, I'm willing to bet I can use the find command to move them into, or not move, to copy them to our subfolder 2. So let's see if that would work. So find, we'll start in root and type file name test file.txt exec copy, and we want to copy to test file 2. I believe this will work. Let's find out. Nope. File path must precede expression. Okay, I see what's going on here. So we're not going to, or there probably is a way to do this. Maybe I should put that in quotation marks. Let's give it a try. See if that works. I don't think that's going to work though. Yeah, still complaining. That's fine. We can just cp test file star.txt to actually I'm going to put it further in the directory tree. So test file 2 subfolder 1. All right, and let's also copy them into subfolder 2. All right, so if I were to do ls-r for test file 2, that's what I expect to see. So subfolder 1, and then within test file 2 subfolder 1, within test file 2 subfolder 1 we have subfolder 2, and then we have within subfolder 2 our files. So let's say that I wanted to copy the subfolder 1 directory. I wanted to copy that over to our test user. So if I were to cp test file 2 subfolder 1, and I put the destination as home test 1. All right, now it says -r was not specified, omitting the directory test file 2 subfolder 1. So let's see if there was anything that was even put into test 1. No. All right, so let's try this. So subfolder 1 star to home test 1. All right, said that we're omitting directory subfolder 2. Let's see if anything went into home test 1, and the files went into there. All right, so what this tells us about the cp command is this -r, which if we were to go into the man page, is going to talk about that being recursive. I'm using slash, by the way, to search. Makes life a little easier. Copy directories recursively. All right. So what this is saying is without the -r flag, CP is going to ignore directories. And as we can see, it copied the 3 files, but it did not copy the subfolder 2 directory. And the first time that we tried this, it did not even copy the subfolder 1. So let's see what happens here. If I were to do cp-r test file 2 subfolder 1 to home, actually let me get rid of the contents of home. So rm, not contents of home, but the contents of test user 1 in the home directory. So just do star, that's fine. All right, so cp -r or -r test file 2 subfolder 1 to home test 1. All right, we'll see what's in home test 1. We see that subfolder 1 is there. Now, let's do ls-r home test 1. All right, notice how we have subfolder 1, and then within subfolder 1, we have subfolder 2 and the test file 1, 2, and 3. All right, so let us ls-r test file 2. Let's compare the output there. All right, so this did exactly what we told it to. We copied recursively the subfolder 1 folder to home test 1, and so therefore it copied both the folder and it copied the contents that were within the folder, which are these three test files and subfolder 2, and it copied subfolder 2 with those. So I guess the question would become, um, is it possible to copy the subfolder 1, or would that even make sense? Would there be a scenario where we just want to literally make subfolder 1 without its contents, but have the files that were within um, subfolder 1? I guess not. There more I think about that, I can't think of a reasonable scenario that would make sense for that. So as far as copying folders, we've done that. We have to use the -R flag to be able to get folders to copy the way that you would want them to copy, which generally if you're copying folders, you're wanting to copy not just like the folder, but the contents within that folder. So moving, I believe, is going to work the same way. So let us again remove all of the items in home test 1. We'll do RF because we have directories in there. By the way, rmdir is the command that you can use to delete a directory if that directory is empty. If there's anything in the directory, you have to use the regular file remove command rm with the -R flag for recursive for that. So home test 1 star gets rid of all that. So what I want to do is now move the test file to subfolder 1 folder, or directory, I guess probably the better term to use, to home test 1. Let's see what happens here. All right, so ls home test 1, we have a folder. So let's do ls-r home test 1. And that copied, or not copied, that moved all of the contents. Pretty sure move does not have a flag for recursive. Yeah, no R flag there. That's what I thought. One thing about move, there are a few things to keep in mind. You can specify some multiple um, multiple sources and such for move. That's where you get your 3 dots if those sources are going into a directory. And so I wouldn't be able to do like a one-liner. Get out of the. Wouldn't be able to do a one-liner that's moving multiple directories at once that I'm aware of. If I'm wrong, feel free to put into the comments how you would do that, because again, I don't want to give misinformation, but at the same time, the scope of what this is just a practice session. But I think I have pretty much covered create, delete, copy, and move files and directories, and I touched a little bit on find with that. So I think for the RHCSA exam, obviously, I don't feel like I'm a master of any of this at all, but I feel fairly confident that I would be able to handle objectives that are related to create, delete, copy, move files and directories. So for this video, if you found it useful for your own study, feel free to like the video and also leave a comment if you did find it useful. And just like for that last thing about the move command, if you find some things that are wrong, feel free to leave a comment about that. It'll give me an opportunity to learn and better my own skills. In general, you can support what I'm doing with this particular video and others with the channel by subscribing. And when you subscribe, make sure you ring the bell so you can be aware when new content comes available. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and I'll see you the next time.